Hey everyone, it's Clint, and going to go through some Franz Bardon exercises for psychic abilities. I apologize about the glare. I'm working on setting up a better studio to kind of film things. I even got a green screen, so eventually I'm gonna get to the point where I'm one of those real video producers. But in the meantime, getting a lot of good feedback about some of the Bardon stuff and some of the Hermetic practices for kind of, guess what you might call paranormal or supernatural abilities. Although that's an interesting point because psychic abilities don't necessarily have to be seen as anything supernatural. It can just be mechanisms for perception that we have that we just really haven't developed. We have a whole lot of inputs and perceptual inputs in our brain, and our motor cortex is only actually working with a very, very small fraction of them. So basically, long story short, perception and psychic powers, there's just a lot we don't know about perception in neuroscience. So to actually think that anything that's called clairvoyance or clairsentience is actually some mystical, fantastical thing, doesn't necessarily have to be the case. We used to think that smelling emotions or, kind of smelling sex on someone, we used to think that was a psychic power. But, recent research has shown that no, there's actually olfactory receptors that kind of will pick up on scents of people and emotions and pheromones and stuff like that. So, and that used to be considered psychic. So, maybe in 100 years, neuroscience will just expand to include all these things that, at least for the time being, are still kind of relegated to the occult. So there's my little speech about perception and psychic powers. I also wanted to mention Bardon's exercises. Franz Bardon, the Czech magician or mystic that has a real good book, Initiation into Hermetics, where he just gives a lot of good exercises for kind of developing these faculties. And keep in mind, it kind of presumes that you're already meditating regularly, or even that you have for many years. So, he kind of wants to present it so it's available to all, and I do think it is available to all. But it's usually people that, at least in my experience, some people just are more prone to get interested in this stuff to begin with. They're more prone to get interested in meditation and yoga and spirituality and silent prayer and things like that to begin with. And if you've even had some practice in those areas going into kind of Hermetic magic training, I think that's a good thing. And it's kind of actually maybe even the most important thing. But anyways, early on in the book, he goes through these exercises. And I wanted to mention one of them because at first it seems like really just kind of almost simple and useless, where he's basically, talking about how to develop clairvoyance, you've kind of got to know the difference between, kind of picking up on a signal that's in the universe, differentiating between that signal and differentiating between kind of your own stuff, the workings of your own personality. Somebody could ask you, well, what do you think of my future? And if you hate that person, you could just see dark doom and gloom. But it doesn't mean like you're picking up some sort of clairvoyant signal about that person's future. It just means probably because you have a lot of dark feelings, you're kind of producing a dark image in response to it. So yeah, there's definitely a kind of balancing of the psychological and clearing of the psychological and working through a lot of psychological stuff that I think, well, it's good to happen. And not that you have to be some sort of perfectly self-actualized, prototype of personal growth to get into this, but you've kind of got to at least be aware, I think, of your own stuff and when your own stuff's getting in the way. And Bardon gets through that by basically, in a sense, developing your own stuff, developing your own mind so you can produce images. And Buddhists do this too. Take an object. Maybe I'm looking at, say, a candle, and I'm looking at the candle for a while, and then I look in a different direction where there's not a candle, and maybe I'm looking at a blank wall. And I try to just basically have that image of the candle in my mind so much that I can almost just kind of produce it at will. So you start looking at objects and then trying to produce that visual representation of them when they're not there, too. So it's kind of like you see it, you don't see it. Well, do you remember what it looks like? Let's reproduce it. And you just kind of do that over and over and over till you gain some sense of control, or at least some sense of capacity to kind of discover that envisioning muscle, the muscle of inner vision, or something to that effect. Maybe it's not even a muscle of inner vision. It's more like the noise of your own inner vision. But, at the least, it's getting to know your own way around your own consciousness. That may even be the net takeaway. And interestingly enough, the American CIA investigated a lot of this psychic phenomenon in the Stargate project through the Stanford Research Institute, and they came up with a technique called remote viewing. And when I heard that, it sounded like, what a strange term to use, for, when other people are using psychic and clairvoyance, and then they're saying remote viewing. But really, it's a clairvoyant technique. It's a clairvoyant exercise. And it's a good exercise from what I see. I mean, in fact, I think it would probably, in a lot of these remote viewing people are, well, some are better than others, I'll say that. But, I think some of the remote viewing stuff could actually help you if you went through one of those trainings. I think that could really give you a sense. I mean, if you're interested in it. If that sounds like too much to take on, just order initiation into Hermetics and get out the exercises and start practicing every day on your own. You can do that too. Because they're similar. The concept, I think, is the same. It's distinguishing the mental noise from the signal. Distinguishing your own personality from the kind of more objective or trans-subjective kind of signal you're getting from the world, from the universe. So, distinguishing mental noise from the signal, and that is very much an important exercise, and that's kind of the general idea on trying to develop or even hone. I mean, this may even be something for people that feel that they already have a little bit of a sense of a powerful intuition and they really want to hone it in, because I mean, if you think, what would be the high level to go to, if you were like at the upper echelon of clairvoyant abilities in the human population at present. Well, I mean, you get good enough, you'll probably get hired by the government or big companies, not that they're going to advertise it. You're not going to get your own TV show. But if you get good enough, you might get a call. And if you haven't gotten that call, well, maybe you need to just keep practicing. I mean, that's a little bit of a joke, but if you do have some powerful intuition, think if you were actually trying to solve a crime, and like law enforcement shelling out some bucks, and they're like, okay, well, where's this missing body? I mean, if you bust out the tarot cards and just do a few spreads, I mean, I don't think they're going to be giving you a call back for another contract. I mean, you're going to have to. I mean, you don't have to hit it 100%. I don't think anybody gets anywhere close to 100%. But I do think, like in the remote viewing and the Stargate project, they were getting closer to. You know, even 40, 50, 60% of the time really being able to hone in on some stuff. So it's interesting things. If you are interested in the Stargate project and remote viewing, good episode on YouTube of Art Bell interviewing Ingo Swann. And Ingo Swann is a really cool guy, really down to earth. I mean, he passed. Rest in peace, Ingo. But not very fantastic or arrogant, actually just a very real human. And he only did psychic stuff that could be verified. Like, he didn't want to just, you know, make money doing psychic shows. He worked with scientists, and he didn't claim to be psychic. He said, let's test it out, you know. Let me step up to the plate and let's see how many, you know, singles or doubles or home runs I can hit. You know, but we need to have a way to verify it. So he worked that way, and he's got a real kind of eccentric demeanor, but it's good. Like, you know, because a lot of people, I mean, let's get the elephant out of the closet. A lot of people in this new age field can be some first class flakes. But Ingo's a little silly and eccentric, but you get the sense Ingo's going to tell the truth. So look that up. Ingo Swann, look up on YouTube Art Bell talking to Ingo Swann. And I mean, I'm not affiliated with them. They're not like giving me like, every time someone clicks from your channel to my podcast, Clint, west of the Rockies, then we're going to give you a commission. No, nothing like that. I don't even know them. Never have. But some of you may know Art Bell. West of the Rockies, dial 1-800. And Ingo's kind of got the more flamboyant, like, kind of New York, you know, even kind of effeminate voice. You know, Art's like, supposedly, Ingo, you're the greatest psychic that's ever lived. And Ingo's like, well, I don't know about all that, Art. Come on, that's a little over the top. You know, real down-to-earth guy. So that's cool. Anyways, that was a little sidebar. Maybe I lost all you hardcore magic students with that, but whatever. You know, just a video on YouTube. Hopefully that gives you a sense for any of you looking to work on any sort of psychic stuff or practicing, developing any of that. And it's real, and there's probably some people that come across videos like this and wonder, you know, really, is it real? Well, you know, if it helps you have confidence, you know, despite what mainstream science is really going to take in, there's been dozens and dozens of studies showing that there are people that have proven clairvoyant abilities. Number one. And number two, you don't even really have to think of it as anything like fantastic. You can really just kind of think of it as what we don't yet know about perception. You know, what neuroscience has not yet discovered about perception. And, you know, which people, you know, are more inclined to be developing certain latent faculties that most of the human population doesn't develop. But we don't live in a world that, like, predisposes us to develop those things. You know, I think if we did, then probably over a long period of time, that would evolve and, you know, become more a gene that's selected for, if you will. But, you know, we're not there right now. So, blessings to all of you. Thanks for all of you that have given good comments on these videos. And, very soon I'm going to actually turn into a real like YouTube person with like nice professional videos and stuff. But in the meantime, just hanging in the room, man.